Welcome to Run Mode, an industrial automation podcast by PowerMation. In today's episode, we've invited a panel of participants from the Technical Sales Associate Program for a discussion on how PowerMation is reaching the next generation of engineering-educated, technically competent, and real-world ready solution providers. Let's talk about some industry news. Have you heard about NIST 2, and are you NIST 2 compliant? Do you need to be NIST 2 compliant, and what is NIST 2? Those are some great questions, but before we get into NIST 2, let's talk about a parallel between cybersecurity and machine functional safety world. Back in the 80s and 90s, when I was a controls engineer at a manufacturing plant, they said, just don't put your hand in that machine, and that's how we dealt with an unsafe environment. But as you can imagine, a lot of people might have gotten hurt, and a lot of companies might have gotten sued. So OSHA mandated specific requirements related to PPE or personal protective equipment in the workplace. And according to this regulation, employers required to have verify workplace hazard assessments and conduct and document these assessments. That documentation should include the workplace evaluated, who did the assessment, the date of the assessment, and what the hazard was. And the hazard assessment basically boils down to how often someone could get hurt and the severity of that hurt. And that assessment should also include, what to do to make sure that the machine is safe. Back to the topic at hand. Network and Information Systems, or NIST, is an EU directive from 2016. NIST 2 is an update to that directive, providing the new EU-wide legislation on cybersecurity. If your organization belongs to one of the following sectors, you must comply by 2024. The sectors are grouped into essential entities and important entities. Essential entities will be audited for compliance, while important entities will be required to produce the documentation upon an incident happening. So it's sort of a proactive versus reactive reaction. However, both groups must be compliant. So both groups must go through this process. The entities in this directive include, but are not limited to, energy, transportation, banking, health services, water, wastewater, digital infrastructure, public administration, aerospace, postal services, waste management, digital providers, and research. It also includes manufacture of medical devices, chemicals, electronics, pharmaceuticals, motor vehicles, and on and on. It might be easier to say who doesn't need to be compliant. What exactly does NIST 2 require you to do? Well, NIST 2 requires your management to be directly involved. You must implement cybersecurity measures, and you must fulfill your reporting obligations. In its basic form, it is cybersecurity equivalent of machine functional safety hazard assessment. What happens if the authorities find out that you're not NIST 2 compliant? They can suspend your commercial activities, hold management personally liable for breach of duty, prohibit management from exercising these functions, issue a fine up to 10 million euros per year or 2% of the total annual turnover, whichever is higher. Now that's a big stick. For more information on how PowerMation can help you with your machine functional safety needs or your cybersecurity needs, please reach out to your PowerMation salesperson. Now let's discuss the differences between AI, machine learning, and deep learning. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is all over the press, and there's a bunch of marketing hype and speculation on what it can do for us in the future. AI is a broad term encompassing any machine that can simulate human intelligence. It involves creating systems capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as reasoning, problem-solving, and decision-making. AI can be rule-based, using predefined rules, or machine learning-based, where it learns from data. Some AI applications include natural language processing for chatbots and language translations, as well as image recognition with vision systems and robotics. This is why AI is believed to be a good fit for automation. Machine learning, on the other hand, or ML, is a subfield of AI. It focuses on algorithms trained on data to produce adaptable models and enables machines to learn from examples and improve their performance over time. So ML models can perform a variety of complex tasks without explicit programming. The key difference between AI and ML is that ML requires minimal human intervention. It can train on smaller data sets, makes simpler, easier, more linear corrections. It can run in traditional CPUs. Some machine learning applications include recommendation systems for movies on Netflix, fraud detection on financial transactions, medical diagnostics or diagnosis based on patient data, predictive maintenance for machinery. Deep learning, or DL, is a subset of machine learning that uses artificial neural networks, multiple layers, or what is known as deep architectures. It mimics the learning process of the human brain by creating complex representations. The key differences between ML and DL is that DL requires large amounts of data. It learns on its own from the environment and past mistakes. It achieves higher accuracy but requires longer training. It makes nonlinear complex correlations. It also needs specialized GPUs, or graphics processing units, for training. Some deep learning algorithms or applications include image classification, like identifying objects in photos, speech recognition, virtual assistants like Siri or Alexa, natural language understanding like chatbots, or sentiment analysis to really understand the feeling of the person that is typing in the chatbot, and also autonomous vehicles and self-driving cars. As technology advances, these fields continue to shape our world, from personalized recommendations to groundbreaking medical discoveries. Whether you're a data scientist or just curious, understanding these concepts is essential in today's AI-driven landscape. You're here with Andrew Jagger and the TSA group, and why don't you tell us how you started at PowerMation and how you got to be where you are now?
Sure. Thanks, Terry, for having us. Andrew Jagger, and I've been at PowerMation for 15 years, and I started as a TSA. So that's what these three are in at PowerMation. And when I got to PowerMation, it was kind of 2008, low economy, and I had just lost my job working at a robotic integrator. Only for a year, right? So just out of school, got a quick job, and then the economy tanked. I started rebuilding a car engine, and went to a neighborhood get-together, and there was a guy there that said, "Hey, what are you up to?" I was like, rebuilding a car engine, just lost my job. He goes, "Oh, what did you do?" And I was like, physics, but then I went into robotics and engineering, and then he said, "Oh, I know this place. You should go check out PowerMation." I went and interviewed there for the TSA role, and I actually took a training class from you the next week after I got the job. So, I just kind of fell into PowerMation as like a career path. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but that's how I started.
Right.
It has been 15 years already.
So I remember when we were in that time, and that's when the last recession was hitting, we were looking for people that were in the organization that could do other roles. And so one role is business development.
Yeah.
Back then it might have been called application engineering.
Right.
But we were working towards trying to figure out who within an organization could help support the sales team.
Right.
And so you didn't really raise your hand per se, but your skills shined a little bit brighter than others.
Yeah.
And
it was too smart to
picked.
say no, right?
You were picked
Yeah.
As somebody that could be part of that TSA program where you could learn more technical things and get in front of the customers, not just being an inside person. Not that it's a bad role, but you don't get out in front of customers as much as you would if you're a business development or an application engineer. So why don't you talk a little bit about how that worked and how we worked together? Maybe you're going to be too honest about how you working with me in the past.
No. So at that time in 2008, the TSA role was really more along the lines of an inside sales tech support role. And our priority was to service customers via the phone or via email. And I really loved servicing customers who had PLC questions. And there was another TSA who I worked with, and he liked working with him on motor control circuits. So him and I would split those tech support roles. And when I got to do the PLC programming questions, I worked with you. And so you kind of really guided me down that path of taking those on deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's when I think it was 2010, 2011, where we had the discussion, hey, would you like to take this further? And you and I started doing the training classes together and PLC programming, and kind of becoming a leader on that side of the product categories.
Yeah, in early stages of that, we thought about, how do we get people to grow? And so standing in front of a group, doing seminars, doing training classes, feeling comfortable with being in front of that group. Yeah. And those are some skills that we thought were important to be there. Believe it or not, some people don't like to be standing in front of a presentation and delivering it. So thinking about those things sort of loosely, then we turned out to what we have today, which is sort of moving throughout the organization. Why don't you talk a little bit about the different stages, I guess you call it, or phases that they would work through?
Yeah, for the TSA program? Yeah, so I became the TSA program leader back in January. And what I've determined was that we needed to create kind of a structure around what our program looks like. And we kind of put it into different phases of education for that time of the program. And they kind of start off with an operations program, so you figure out how boxes go out the door. And then we start to talk about business development rotation, where you're working on the technology. And then the solutions part of the program is where you're working with our engineers and doing larger projects. And then we finally jump into the sales side of the program.
And that brings us to our special guest today. You guys have been in the program. Why don't you introduce yourself, how long you've been in the program, and maybe a little of your background, what you went to school for and whatnot.
Absolutely. So my name's Adam Bone. I've been a technical sales associate since last June. Graduated from Iowa State. I started studying mechanical engineering, graduated with a degree in industrial engineering as well as a engineering sales minor, and came to PowerMation because I wanted to do a customer-facing role with a technical organization.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm Cody Branch. Also went to Iowa State with mechanical engineering. I started about a year ago, same time as Adam. I really kind of just happened to walk by PowerMation and saw the sign sales engineering, and I thought, well, that's different. And then I started talking to them, and here I am today. So I guess that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah, my name is Mikkel Hofstad. I've been with PowerMation since last January, so about a year and 4 months. I as well went to Iowa State, background in mechanical engineering, and was also in the sales engineering program. I knew an older TSA with PowerMation, and she kind of introduced me to the company, and so that's how I ended up here.
And earlier, Adam, you were talking off screen about how the TSA program sort of was attractive to you in that sales engineering role. Why don't you speak a little bit on that, of why you picked PowerMation?
Absolutely. So I started out going to Iowa State really wanting to do product development engineering. And throughout the course of a couple of internships, I found out that that wasn't quite the right role for me. I really wanted to do something customer-facing where there were different challenges every day and a continuous drive to learn more and learn more about new technologies. So about 2 years into my studies at Iowa State, discovered sales engineering. I got very lucky that Iowa State had a very strong sales engineering program. And when I heard about PowerMation, I'd had one internship that was focused on sales support engineering. And one of the things that I knew I was looking for was a technical sales force, a company that really valued training their people on a wide variety of breadth of technologies. So when I was talking to Adam Jackson at the career fair, and he said PowerMation is a technical sales force, that really resonated with me. When I spoke with some of my mentors about industrial automation at Iowa State, they had a background in industrial automation distribution, and they said PowerMation turns out some of the most technical, most highly trained sales engineers, account representatives in the industry. That was what really sold PowerMation for me. And the duration of the TSA program being a 12, 18, 24-month program really gives you the skills that you need to go out and be confident in your role as a sales engineer.
So in that 24-month program, where are you in what phase, and how many hours and days or years have you been into it, and how many more do you have to go?
I'm transitioning out of the BDM role that Andrew was talking about, kind of more into that learning about account like representing accounts and going into the sales side of things. So my role right now is to work with underserviced accounts who don't necessarily have a rep tied to them and try and introduce them to some new technologies, some new ideas that could hopefully help them with their manufacturing processes. And I have, let's see, maybe a month or two left until I am officially done with the TSA program.
Yeah. And at that time, we're transitioning you from a TSA into an official account rep where you'd be working with commission and looking for your own partners.
Correct.
To work, or customers and partners to work with.
Yep.
Yeah. So I am just finishing up my time with the Solutions Group, our engineering group, and then I'll be going into BDM. But with the Solutions Group, you really are working a lot with the nitty-gritty details of a project, right? It's what exact component do we need here? It's less about, the overall technology. Sometimes you really get to dive into the nitty-gritty of stuff, and it's definitely something that you need to know how to do, and what is needed when you're eventually out talking to customers. And let's say there's a problem, you need to be able to know where that problem is and how to sort of navigate that.
And I am just now transitioning into the solutions role that Cody's been filling. That's actually why I'm up in St. Paul this week with you guys. But up until now, I've been doing the business development role, so working with our BDMs like Terry and Andrew, as well as some of ours that were down in Pewaukee. One of the focuses that I've had in the BDM role was working on demos for our motion BDM, as well as some safety products. One of the big projects I've had has been radar-based safety systems through one of our vendors, Inspect, adding that to both our St. Paul demos as well as the standing demo that we have over in Pewaukee. And the business development role is really where you get to dive into specific technologies, some of the more innovative stuff that we have, not the day-to-day, and become more confident with all of our products.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about being in the solutions group, is that you can walk a mile in the customer's shoes. As a salesperson, you might sell them the things that they would put together. Their success is on their shoulders, or whether or not they commission it properly. Solutions group allows us to understand what it takes to make things go from beginning to end. So you've got to be 100% complete with something. You can't just sell them the parts and hope that somebody else is going to come along. And that's a very important part of what we do at PowerMation over the last 20 years with the solutions group, is making sure that we do things correctly all the way to the end. We also do kitting and bundling and some of those types of things that are a little bit more warehouse driven as opposed to actual engineering, but it's a valuable part of what we do as an organization. So
you can see with where they're all at during their training and education with this TSA program, we're really trying to provide a service to the new graduates out of school to make it so that they don't jump into the industry without having their feet under them. They have someone to call on, someone to fall back on if they don't know the answer that they're really getting asked from a customer. We don't want them to feel like they're stuck having to say, "Oh, I'm not sure, and I'll get back to you right away." They'll say, "Hey, I know that part. I know that part. Not sure about that one. I'll get back to you." And then they have people, because they've worked in the industry for a year and a half, to rely on. They have those connections already, so they're not starting off from scratch. They have that kind of background already when they enter in the sales workforce, or the servicing our customers and calling on them, making sure that their processes are going.
And I think it's safe to say that PowerMation prides themselves on highly technical salespeople. So having them go through a 2-year process to get trained, and not that you're not adding value, but we're not, you're not part of the employee side of it, right? Because you're in training. But we're investing a tremendous amount of money and a tremendous amount of time so that when you do start touching those customers, it's quality touch, very educated touch, and then we're adding that value so that when you're leaving, we're not just kind of pushing you out of the nest, so to speak, and having you go do your own things. So how does the TSA program prepare you for a future customer-facing position?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that university teaches you about technical field, but there's a lot of things that they don't. Some of the technologies that we work with are something that Iowa State or really any university doesn't touch on because it's specific to our industrial automation roles. An example that comes to mind is going to the Horner PLC training class and learning how to program a Modbus TCP port, and then going back and relearning that with Andrew and putting that into practice with business development managers, and then going through your BDM role and doing it 2-3 more times for demos, so that when you get out and you're in front of a customer, it's not the first time that you're doing something, it's the 5th or 6th time that you're doing something, so you can truly be confident in that.
Yeah, like I don't know, I'm a mechanical guy, right? So I've kind of seen some of the actuators and motors before, like in school and beforehand, but I didn't know anything about electricity. I thought it was magic until it showed up. And now I can wire stuff. I won't know what to normally close, normally open contact it. Like you really just, the baseline is so much higher than where an average engineer, I think, comes in. And yeah, it helps a lot, I think.
Yeah. I would say another important thing that we learned a lot throughout the TSA program is some of those soft skills. Like coming in, Cody and I kind of worked with Andrew to develop a program. We kind of coined TSAs on the move, where we can practice some of those soft skills in a low risk environment. So kind of going into accounts that PowerMation's never worked with before and walking in there and introducing PowerMation to them and just learning how to have that initial conversation and how to, just communicate with someone that you've never met before and feel comfortable throughout that whole process of introducing yourself and your company to someone.
That also helped us like see some real world examples.
Exactly.
Like we're going into these companies, they're giving us a tour and we're seeing, oh, that's what a printing press looks like. That's how they're converting the pay. I mean, it's stuff that really
Great.
Cool.
Yeah. A lot of cool experiences for sure.
Speaking of learning in a low risk environment, the tech support side of things that we get to do for some of our house accounts and for some of our senior reps and their accounts, working with them, working with business development managers. So if we do make a mistake, because everyone's going to make a mistake when they're in a new industry learning new things, we have the opportunity to make those mistakes in a controlled environment where someone can come in and correct those so that we can bring the right solutions to the customers and learn from it so that when we're out in the field, we do bring those right solutions to the customers.
Yeah, you kind of have us looking over your shoulder all the time going, well, maybe we can, a little advice here, a little prod there, making sure you're walking the path that is appropriate for the customer, making sure it's the right answer or the appropriate solution, right? We're looking at this program as trying to inspire you guys to want to be salespeople in the industry, and we want you to have experience, have positive experience, but we also want you to fail a little bit so that you're, learning from those failures and not big failures, right? Just small ones, just so that you understand that business is creating trust with our customers, and with that trust, you will increase your relationship with that customer, and then with better relationships, usually become better business partners. And so that's kind of a goal within PowerMation, is to inspire you guys to work with customers and gain that. And when I look at the program in a whole, it's to gain to give you guys confidence to work with the entire team, from our inside sales team, our warehouse, our engineers, our business development team, which is on the technical side, and then with our 20 to 50 to 100 manufacturers that we work with, and having those relationships so that when you're in front of the customer, it's not just Adam or Cody or Mikkel sitting in front of the customer. It's Adam with 150 people behind him or her saying, hey, I'm going to be PowerMation in front of that customer, and really having that confidence to have that with your training is kind of our goal.
And it's a 2-year investment that PowerMation is making into us so that we can be confident when we get out there into the sales force.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think we can state too much how much we appreciate that. And
Yeah,
how
back in the
valuable that is.
back in the early days when Andrew started, it was the technical role, inside sales kind of technical role, and the value of that role has morphed and increased over time. And so now we're getting to the point where we actually have a structure, we have a person in charge, we have flow, and we can get a lot more people through the program so that they can know what they're getting themselves into, and when they come out on the other end, they can add that value.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for joining us today, and we'll be working together.
Thanks, Derek.
Thanks,
Thank you very much, Terry.
Thanks for having us.
We'd like to thank you and our TSA panel guests for joining us today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast to stay up to date on future episodes. See you next time.